All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a podcast with no name. My name is Paris.
I'm Ebony.
And today we are going to do our tackle topic. And today we want to specifically talk about age and growth and mindfulness. Specifically, we want to talk about, remember when you were little and you had the idea with age comes wisdom? And we want to talk to you about that now that we are adults. Is that true or not? Ebony, do you want to start off with answering that?
Sure. I would say I just kind of always assumed, especially in our community, in the African American community, we kind of hold our elders in high regard. And so, we're just taught that we're supposed to respect our elders. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I can't wait to become an elder because all elders are wise. They have so much knowledge, they've grown, they can tell you how to maneuver. But then as I begin to self-actualize and grow and work on personal development and self-development, I began to realize like that's not the standard. Like people grow, they age, but they don't necessarily mature. And excuse me, I live in Raleigh and the allergies here, the pollen is so bad. I'm just so congested and I don't take medication. So I'm trying to tough it out, ride with me. But I look around and I just see so many people who are stunted in their childhood self, their teenage self, um, in the moments that traumatize them. Like, for instance, they may be stuck in the moment that, they got pregnant early from school, or they got kicked out of school, or got in a fight, or suspended. And it's just so many people who are stuck in the cycle and they age and they never mature and they never gain wisdom. And they're just existing. They're going through life, they're passing years, and it just baffles me that the exchange of time is not with knowledge or wisdom. It's just that time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I think also to this, like you said, especially in our community, like you said, with age is supposed to come a certain amount of respect and a certain amount of reverie to a person, right? And so to me personally, exactly like you're saying, is a person who has been a little more mindful of my personal growth and um, my own personal development, sometimes coming into contact with those older people who maybe not have done that, or like you said, are stuck in certain things. The issue that I also have too is with older people is, especially in our community, it's sometimes because you're younger, you're supposed to overlook disrespect or someone being rude, unkind. And so for me as a person in my generation, um, I personally have had issues in that area because to me I go, hey, I can respect you as an elder, but also to me I'm like, I'm not a subordinate, I'm a person. So I also expect a level of respect because to me I'm like, I'm also a human, I'm also a person, I have my own personal feelings, but I'm also an adult now and I have my own children that I raise. Um, and I've come to respect them as people, even though it's something. So I feel like if we're meeting in the same place as adults, and sometimes I am expecting a certain level of respect. And if that person is stunted, or especially if that person has had in their mind that, hey, I'm older, so you're a subordinate, I personally may feel mistreated. And when I speak up for my mistreatment, then there's a big clash there. And so sometimes I feel like that is a kind of stunting as well, of feeling like, hey, I just have age. So I have like a higher position or something than you. And I'm like, well, in this situation, maybe a situation that's, something ethical or moral. And I'm speaking of, hey, you didn't really handle that right. Or, hey, you could have been nicer in the way you spoke. Or, hey, maybe the means of way you handled that wasn't appropriate. And I don't know if you personally experienced this, but I personally get a lot of times go, hey, or I am who I am. I'm this old now. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. Or I talk the way I talk. It's not this, not whatever, but I'm so and so. So you should just fall in line, right? And so when I speak of going, hey, it doesn't matter how old you are and who you are, that was disrespectful. You shouldn't do it that way. That's usually when I have a class there. And so to me, that's also made me mindful of that. Yeah, that's not necessarily true. That with age comes wisdom. With age comes like knowledge and understanding and perspective. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think with work.
That part is because, so it's really an accountability thing. It's like, and I talk a lot about this in general, it's an ownership thing, right? In order to be accountable means that you have to take ownership or responsibility. And in reality, a lot of us, due to the traumas and things that stunted us in our, younger years, we never self-actualize. We never walk into true adulthood, right? So when you think about this, it's like I'm stunted in a certain age, which means that I'm not curious about myself. I'm not understanding what the things about myself that keep me here, keep me stuck here, or the things that I can learn about myself to help pull me out of here, right? I don't own enough of myself because I'm still stunted in that childhood stage. So I could be 75 right now. And when I'm around people, just like you said, I can go, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I've always been this way and this is who I am. And it never worked for them, right? You look around and they don't have the type of life that they wanted. They did not accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. But then you realize, like, oh, what I'm seeing is the lack of accountability or the lack of not owning yourself. You're still stunted because had you done the work, then you have to take accountability of what your life is and how you show up in it, right? So if a person comes to you and they go, okay, let's say you were trying to give me a message, but the message was so unkind that I didn't hear it. And you go, well, that's just the way I say it. Again, lack of accountability. You don't own enough of yourself. So because you don't control your own behaviors, you try to take the control and cross boundaries of the other person. You see what I'm saying? So a person who says to you, well, this is just who I am. I've always been this way, and I don't care if it hurts your feelings when you're trying to solve a problem or work through something. That is the person who is telling you to disregard what you know of yourself and cross your boundaries in order for them to be who they are, right? And I can't, and in my mind, I can't control my habits, the things that led my life to where it is now. And instead of feeling bad or taking accountability behind those things, I will shame you, right? So I'm gonna make it seem by crossing your boundaries or by you trying to just address me and say, hey, can we do it better? Can we grow better? Can we, if this was the end goal, you missed the mark. A lot of people just, they can't take it because it's a mirror. It's like, oh, wow, like, no one's ever made me take accountability before. And if I take accountability now, and I hadn't done that for 75 years, like now I have to look at all of the choices that I've been making for the last 75 years when I said I couldn't do that one thing. So if I said I couldn't, talk without being sarcastic, and I've done it for 75 years, and now someone lets me know why it's not beneficial, and I can even see the benefits of why it's not beneficial. I can't stop doing that thing now, because then now I have to, face the last 75 years. I have to look at it in the mirror. I have to look at it in this face and go, wow, if I was able to change it at 75, I could have changed it at 25. And what would have my life would have been at 25 had I changed it then? And so a lot of it is just kind of doubling down, because it's like, I was hurt, I was stunted, I'm not going to do the work to heal, and I don't want you to be healed around me. And the fact that you are healed around me makes me feel some kind of way about you being healed. So I'm going to cross your boundaries and make it seem like you're the crazy person, like you're, in the wrong, and it's not me.
Absolutely. I've definitely encountered that doubling down, on the thing of basically saying, well, this, or, well, the sucking teeth, or I'm so and so and this and that. And, you know, the also the thing too is when you ask hard interpersonal questions and the people realize that, hey, I can't give you an answer to that. I haven't done that work. I've never thought about that. Or I may don't want to do that work. And I don't thought about that. I would say even in my personal growth, I'm in therapy. And recently my therapist actually said, hey, I said, well, sometimes I respond this way. And she goes, hey, well, when you respond that way, have you had any mindfulness to change that? And I said, no, to be honest, I don't. I think for me personally, my thing is that maybe someone offends me and I go, I give them some grace and I go, maybe they didn't mean it like that. They speak a little harshly, but they're not trying to be rude. And time goes on, they do it again. And I'm a person like, look, you do this 7 more times, we gonna have a problem. I'm one of those type of people because I'm gracious. But when the time comes and that final straw, then I'm just like, boom. It's either going to be a blow up or it's going to be like, hey, I don't talk to you ever again. And the person's like, well, what's going on? And so I haven't necessarily voiced that, like, hey, this is something that I don't necessarily like, or this is something. And so she said, well, can't you say something before that moment of doing something? And I said, I guess I could. To me, for me personally, what I'm thinking is, hey, I'm giving you a lot of grace. So I'm giving you the moment of being like, you didn't mean it that way. So I'm not going to take it offensively. But to me, it's not that like, hey, I'm keeping tabs of how many times you've done it or I've let it build up. To me, what I usually happens to me personally, this is how I've seen the perspective, is that I've given you so much grace that you push my boundaries even further till you got to the point that you like, hey, not only can I do this, I can also be disrespectful and this person will not have a thing. And to me, the one thing I don't tolerate is disrespect. So I've given you so much grace that now you realize I feel you've taken my kindness for weakness. And so now only am I going to push this boundary, I'm also going to push you and I'm going to be disrespectful. And so in that moment, then that's when I blow up. And so she said, well, can't you say something? I said, to be honest, to me, truthfully, this is complete understanding of myself. No, because the truth of the matter is for me, people don't realize in me giving you that grace, it's not me being weak. It's me choosing peace because I don't have to do that. I don't want to do that. So now when you push the boundary, I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I'm very happy. You might even find me being elated because now I can finally dig into that shadow dark side. Now I can finally really be petty that I've wanted to. I've held all this petty. I've held all my words. I've been very graceful. And now I'm looking at you like, let's go. Like, we're gonna do this. The best thing I can do is just be like, hey, I'm just gonna leave this person alone. And if I don't do that, I'm gonna take so much joy in finally releasing the shadow side. And I'll be honest, I said it's cathartic for me. So no, I'm not interested in changing it. But even in that, that's a lot of me doing a lot of interpersonal work, being in therapy and talking about those things and being like, hey, and even my therapist asked me, is this something you want to change? It says no. I don't mind giving people grace, but also in me giving grace, what you have to realize, like we were saying before, is a matter of you and what work you've done. You've crossed boundaries, but now you've decided, hey, I can cross more of your boundaries. You're weak, you're accepting of this. So now I'm going to push it. So I'm like, one thing, I'm like, why can't, to me, I'm like, I've shown up in a certain way. So you can show up in a certain way. And if I've allowed you some grace in those moments when you don't show up, and mind you, I'm not a person that's anything, but I just be like, okay, I might have stayed away a little bit. I might have been like, hey, you didn't see me for a little while or something. And I'm like, that wasn't cool. Like, you hurt my feelings or something. But if you decide that, hey, I'm going to push and, be more of a jerk to this person, then that's something on you. I can hold my accountability that I didn't say something before, but also if you hold accountability to yourself too, it's like, why do you feel the need to go that far? So I will say, something in that as well. But like I said, also, I know that like I've done the work and I've done this. I know this is my issue. I know that I'm going to be petty and I'm going to be me if we go there. I know that I don't want to say anything. And it's not a matter of avoiding confrontation. To me, it's just, could it be a matter of avoiding confrontation? Probably on
Well,
some
I
level.
wouldn't say avoiding. You only have two options. You can engage or disengage. So
True.
either you can have peace or not have peace. So it's not really avoiding, it's making a choice, a different choice, the opposite choice. So
Mm,
for me, it's like I hear, so what I just, everything that I just heard was two, it reminded me of two things. The first thing is grace. Um, so I wasn't able to give people grace until I started working on myself, until I
mm,
started clearing up a lot of my bad behaviors, a lot of the things that I didn't like about myself, a lot of the things that I wanted to change about myself. I wasn't allowed to give people grace. What people don't realize is a lot of your interactions when you're not constantly working to heal yourself is you're projecting. You're projecting your fears or you're projecting your insecurities, right? And that's most of the
mm,
conversations that people are having with each other. We're not really talking with each other, we're talking at each other and through our fears and insecurities. And so the more you remove them, the more you can show up authentic, and it gives people around you the permission to show up authentic, right? Which means that they
mm,
can show you the good, the bad, they can make a mistake. And in all of that, it's still perfect. It's still good as long as, you know, your intentions are pure and your actions don't impact me. I'll always allow people the space to be themselves, even if it's not my type of person, right?
mm.
I've always been a different thinker in this world. And from a very young age, from 6 and on, people pointed it out to me and kind of, you know, villainized me for being different or thinking different. And so it was only in me accepting, and I begin to hate those things about myself, like, oh, you know, why do I have all these things that people deem problematic or they deem challenging, and I begin to, you know, hate those things. And once I started to work on myself and give myself the grace, like, oh, you know, the reason why, Ebony, they're not liking these things in you is because they don't like them in themselves. And these
Mm,
things are not necessarily a bad thing. Like, for instance, people will not admit just things that is just human nature. We all have selfish tendencies. We all have shadow tendencies, and they just have a hard time admitting that those things are in them. So when you are in a situation and somebody is being selfish, but their selfishness don't necessarily impact you, and you wonder why you so triggered by it, like, you don't even know this person. Why? What? Them being selfish don't even impact your life. Like, why are you so mad? Why are you mad enough to watch them and, you know, for hours or stalk them or leave comments on their medias? And it's like, why? You don't even know this person because you're triggered. You're triggered. Trust me, it's that insecurity of selfishness in yourself. You don't like the selfishness in yourself. So when you see it in another person, you try to punish them and eliminate it in that person because you don't like it in yourself. Once you accept all qualities that exist are in you, and once you find a way to find both the light and the shadow in those qualities, then you can show others more grace and you're not always so judgmental. Another thing that I wanted to say is that triggered what you're saying is masking. And a lot of us do that, right? And we don't even necessarily know that we're doing it. In this society, in my opinion, the biggest problem that we have is masking. So, and
mhm,
that comes in many different forms. The first form, and the form that matters so much, and to me, which is the catalyst of all the problems that we're having, is at some point something traumatic happened to you, and how you responded became your mask, right? And then you just kept adding to this mask, and now you only wear it when you don't know who you are. So you don't even own enough of yourself. It's full circle. You don't own enough of yourself because you've been wearing this mask for so long, right? And you're like,
mm,
oh, somebody hurt me. Let's say somebody lied on you when you was 8, and then, you know, said you did something and you got in all of this trouble, and then now from that moment you don't really trust people. And so you realize from that moment you never really trust people, you never really gave your all, you went into the situation thinking that people were going to let you down, and all it did was just manifest itself. And so you're still wearing that mask or that band-aid from when you were hurt when you were 7. You're still wearing it all of these years, and over the years you have put more things on it. You have decorated it in more different ways, and it's like you don't even see yourself. You don't know yourself when you look in the mirror. You don't know who you are. You don't know what your wants are, your likes are, your needs, why you're doing certain things, why you work, why you spend money, why you consume this, why you go here, why you have these set of friends. You don't know anything about your life. You're just going through the motions, existing, and you never
Mhm.
stop to figure out, how am I growing towards who I'm supposed to be? How do I continue to do what it is that I need to do so that I can evolve and not just age, but, mature, be the best
Mhm.
me and walk into my higher self with grace.
Mhm. I agree with that. And I think especially what you're saying is kind of like what you're explaining before of just living every day and being like, hey, why did I do that? Even in the simple thing of like, why do I have these friends? Or why do can you hear me? Okay, why do I have these friends and why do I have this job and why do I go to these places? And so it's so interesting too because I think also what you find is like as you get more mature, as you get more introspective, right, about like your friends and your environment, you may also people say may say like you become more introverted. Your circle becomes smaller. You have less friends, and they're like, you gotta go out and you gotta do things. You gotta do that and you're kind of like, yeah, like that's cool. Like I'm willing to do that when I want to. I'm willing to do that when I'm comfortable. I'm willing to do that with the people I enjoy doing that with. Um, but I'm not interested in being like around like a lot of people or large crowds or something. I'm only interested in doing the things that I enjoy. I'm not interested in being seen. I'm not interested in being housed. I'm not interested in just doing, you know. So I think also too is like in this world too is like with that maturity of kind of being like maybe stoic or hermetic or like peaceful. People are like, "Oh, you're so boring. You're not doing anything." And I'm like, I'm at home, like I'm enjoying myself. Like maybe I'm not like at the parties, I'm not at the club and stuff, but that's not what I enjoy doing. So I'm not gonna be at the parties. I'm not gonna be in the club and stuff because why would I do that? Like if I'm gonna go to a place, I'm gonna have a good time, sure, but that's not my definition of a good time. Having a whole bunch of friends and going out to this whole girl brunch and stuff, that's nice. But I've never been necessarily that type of person. So that's not my idea of a good time. Um, and I don't want a bunch of people that I just know that I can just like, well, I'm gonna spend this day with this person. I'm gonna do this day with this person, that. And but me, I'm like, I want to spend people who I actually like enjoy their company, like we actually talk, we're doing mutual things that we enjoy together. I don't just want to be with somebody because they're there, just to say that I have so and so friends. I don't want to do that. And so I think that's also like a part of growing up and understanding. And so in that too, you have to be mindful of like these people who are older and they have these friends that they talk about all the time, that they complain about all the time. They have this family that they're around that may even live with them, and that they talk about all the time. They complain about all the time, but they keep these people very closely in their circle at all times just to have the look of like, hey, these pseudo close relationships. I have these great friends and I have these great families that I'm with and I'm around all the time. And I go, well, that's very like superficial because to you, without the introspection, your mind is like, if I'm not surrounded by people, if I'm not surrounded by things, if I'm not constantly doing something, then life is boring, not happy, right? I go, that's not true. That's not true. How can life be happy if you can't even enjoy your own company?
That part. How can you expect someone to like you or you to have a best friend and you're not even your own best friend?
Mhm.
You expect love and you don't love yourself. It's like you can't give something you don't have. And again, that's why a lot of people are triggered, because it's, you have those things, but you don't have them. You
Yeah.
haven't embraced them. It's like one of my biggest lessons in learning, in maturing, is aligning myself not just with people but with nature. And once you start to understand the things that are in nature and it's natural and how it translates into the society that are, you know, we're mammals, we're just in a society, how that translate, you start to realize certain things like, oh, okay. And so for me, I used to avoid conflict. I used to do everything to avoid conflict. I'm an avoider, because I choose peace, light, happiness. I just want to have a good time and play. But I realize conflict is a part of it. And you're going to have internal conflict too, not just conflict with other people. You're trying to people please and avoid conflict, but you're going to have internal conflict that trying to distract yourself or avoid it doesn't go away, because everywhere you go, there you are. You cannot just continuously run away from yourself and wonder why other people don't want to be with around you. You don't want to be around you. You
Yeah.
can't sit home in the quiet. You can't just be, you're always doing, right? You can't be left alone with your thoughts because your thoughts are not saying, you have mental chatter or stinking thinking, and your thoughts are saying all these kinds of things to you that you need to be distracted. You need to have TV on, you need to be on social media, you need to be around people. And never it's downtime to kind of self-reflect, to work through things, to journal out, to pray, to align yourself with what you believe, source, Allah, Jehovah, whatever it is that you believe, to kind of get a purpose bigger than yourself. And it's like distractions come in many forms. We can sit here and say, oh, I'm around these people because for this reason, and I'm not trying to push any buttons for anyone, but I believe that you should know why you're doing things, right? So if you have kids and you don't know why you have kids and it's not a valid reason, then you could be using your kids as a distraction. If you are at a job and you don't know why you are there, your job is a distraction. If you have a friend group and you don't know why you're friends with them, it's a distraction. If you're watching this type of TV, it doesn't help you. If you're eating certain things, it doesn't help you. If you have these habits and they're not necessarily helping you, then they're a distraction to you becoming your best self. We all have an idea of who we want to be and where we want to go. We just don't want to do the work. It's too hard, right? And then
Yeah.
avoiding the work or distracting yourself or withdrawing the work, it means that you stunt your growth and you just age and not mature.
Yeah. And I also want to add that, like, you can absolutely distract yourself with very productive things to avoid the growth that you're supposed to do it. So you can distract yourself with starting a business. You can distract yourself with reading self-help books and journaling and therapy, and this and that. And so, what growth were you trying to do? You don't eat healthy. You don't drink enough water. You're not eating on time. You're not sleeping well. But you're like, I have a business, and I'm very, very busy developing my business. So I don't have
Right.
time to focus on getting in the gym, or I get messed up because I'm so focused on my business. I don't eat on time and I don't eat regularly. So I'm eating junk. Um, so it's not that you only distract yourself with bad things. You can distract yourself with very productive things, with people that you love, and even being like, hey, instead of this, time that I was going to do this, I'm going to choose to be like, I haven't spent any time with my family or these things or whatever. And so I'm going to go and do this and whatever. And that's great. It's very productive. But you could have done that any other time. You could have worked in what you needed to do in your vacation and your time with your family. If you want to work out, like, why aren't you and your kids playing outside and running around and play hide and seek? I'm old. Hide and seek is an exercise for me. Like, and I'm heavier than I've been in my entire life. Hide and seek is a full on exercise, chasing them children around his bitty yard. I can do that, but instead I'll be like, hey, let me sit on the porch and I'm gonna read my book or do whatever. You guys play and I'll keep an eye on you. But I feel like I got outside. I've got my vitamin D. I'm not stuck in the house. And I'm also going to be productive in handling this thing. And I'm going to make sure that my kids are outside. So I'm engaged and I'm talking to them. I'm laughing to them while I'm going to multitask or something. But yeah, absolutely. So I do want to put in that too, that like, distractions don't have to only be bad. They can also be productive, but a distraction is a distraction. It's a distraction. And so we all are guilty of that as well. Even we come on here, we go, hey, we've gotten rid of some of this bad stuff. We got very healthy distractions.
Amen. You know I do.
Yeah.
But so what, all right, so let's talk about practicality now in our last little 10 minutes.
Mhm.
What does self-development or self-growth or mastery, like what are some of those activities? What does it look like? I mean, we talk about distractions, there's good and bad distractions. How do you know if what you're doing is actually adding value, helping you grow and benefit in your life?
I would say to me personally, I thought it was very interesting because you were saying aligning with nature. And I think one of the books that we read, I think it's Man's Search for Himself. The interesting was one of the things he's saying when you are in a place of like being really like self-centered and into self, but not in a healthy way, you have no appreciation for nature. You don't go out and see how beautiful the leaves and trees are doing. But also you forget like what you're saying, we are also people of this earth and we are of nature. So there's also your own nature as well. And so it's just also enjoying your own nature and being with your own self. And to me personally, what I find, and this might be like weird, but to me, like a red flag for me is a person who can't drive in silence
I
because
agree.
you don't enjoy your own space or your own
Thoughts.
thoughts. Very
Mhm.
often, I drive in silence. I don't usually listen to music, and it's not that, and it's not even purposeful. It just happens because
You
that's
mean
like
you always drive in silence?
most of the time. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
most of the time I drive
Me
in
too.
silence.
I always drive in silence
Yeah, I mostly
for the most
like the only
part.
times I don't drive in silence is like when I'm on the phone or if
Or a
I'm on
road
like
trip.
yeah, very, very long road trip. It might be audio book or music or something. But other than that, I just drive in silence. And it's just a moment of just kind of like sitting in your own self, your thoughts race, you solve world peace, you solve world hunger. You replay that argument and what you could have said better, what you could have did. You remember something funny, something like that. And so to me, it's just enjoying and valuing your own nature. So to me, I said in practicality is like taking a second of like you're saying, one is asking yourself, what are distractions for myself? What am I doing not to spend any time with myself? And taking some initiative to have time with yourself in the easiest way to spend time with yourself is to turn off whatever you have in the car. That's the easiest way to find this time to spend with yourself. Instead of being like, hey, I'm going to sit in a room and I'm going to meditate. I'm going to sit in a quiet, dark place and I'm going to do that, which could be awkward. But you're already in a space that's kind of like enclosed and quiet. And you probably don't realize, even with music, there's so much that goes through your mind when you're driving all the time anyway, even with that music. So just go ahead and turn it off and just tune into those things that's in your mind anyway.
I agree. I would say my three, well, really two, because the third one is kind of the second one. But the first one for me, I would say in practical terms, as a person who teach wellness and stress management, when we talk about, doing the self-reflection and working and growing in personal development and mastery, I would say the top two or three. The first one is to align with source, God, Allah, Jehovah, Oshun, Jehovah, whoever you believe in. You need to align with something that's bigger than yourself, bigger than your small life.
Mm-hmm.
Even back before religion was a really big thing, we aligned with nature. So people worship the sun or the ocean. And again, when you stand next to the ocean, you feel really small. So even if you do pick, to align with the ocean, which is nature, you realize your place in it, even though it may be insignificant, it's still important, right? So that's a really big part of it. Is if you see it in nature, you are a part of nature. It's in yourself. You have to embrace it. You have to reconcile these things in order to enjoy your life, not just do life, but to enjoy life, right? The second one is to start with why. To be curious, they're the one and the same, two and three. Start with why, be curious. You should want to know why you're doing certain things. You should want to know why you're doing everything. You should know, why you getting, when your alarm goes off at 6 a.m., why are you getting up at 6 a.m.? What is the reason? What are you planning to do? Okay, you're wearing this today. Why are you wearing this today? Okay, you're brushing your teeth. Why are you brushing your teeth? Okay, you're styling your hair. Why? You know, you're reading this book. Why? You're taking your child to school. Why?
Mhm.
Everything you need to start it with why, because in starting it with why, you get curious about what you're doing. It brings you into the present moment. It helps you to think about the consequences or the values or the beliefs that led you to these, to do this thing or not do this thing, because what you don't do is important too. It's not just what you do, but because everything comes at an opportunity cost. So what you're not doing matters too. And starting with why helps to eliminate so many things out of your life, especially if you know where you're going. You align yourself with source. Your source is telling you what you're here for. And what you're doing is starting with why. And once you know why, you stay clear from anything that is a distraction that may hinder you, that may deplete you, because you believe in something greater and you're moving with purpose. And just
Mm.
aligning yourself with something greater and moving with purpose will eliminate so much in this world. And if you could just practice those two things every single day, in my opinion, you will have moments where you see your own growth. And it's not something that other people will comment too, but I don't believe other people's opinions are more important than your own. You will have moments where you go, wow, I've grown, because I remember 5 years ago I would have did this, or I remember I would have said this, or I would have went off, but I see how I handled that, and I did it, and I didn't even break a sweat, and I didn't even have to think about what led me to that. But I just kind of did it with like swag. And
Mm.
so I just think that those three things are the most practical tools a person can do to be more than do, and to make sure that they are mastering themselves as they grow.
Mm. I agree. And I think that's the easiest one. And I also want to add too, it's like when you ask why, for most people, don't think it needs to be like this deep, whatever. The why can be simple. Why are you brushing your teeth? Because I want my teeth to be clean. Like I don't want nobody to be like, you got butter on your teeth. Because I like, and then it's why it's like, well, that's embarrassing. And goes to why, and goes because I like clean teeth, and it's simple. It doesn't have to be something deep of like, oh, in third grade, and I'll try. Sure, if you get to that, that's great. But if you don't, your why can be simple. Why do I want to wear this today? Because it's cute, and I look
Me
good
feel
in it.
good. Make me
It makes
feel
me,
good.
yeah, I look good. It makes me feel good. I like feeling good. So, do it that way. It doesn't always have to be this like really deep thing. But later, when you learn to ask that first why, and then ask another why to that one, and ask another why to that one, you will get to the root of all of that, like you were saying. It's learning to get past the first why and ask, go, your mind starts to go, well, why? Well, why that, and why that, and why that? And so I agree with you too. It's like, and we had this conversation a few times, and some people's like, hey, I have this big purpose in life. I have this big purpose in life. And I always say, everyone's not meant to cure cancer. That's everybody's not meant to do that. And so to me, what you're saying is I got away from like, hey, what is my purpose in life? Into being like, I'm purposeful in what I do every day. And so I don't have to rack my brain all the time. It's like, what is my purpose in life? Like, what am I supposed to be accomplishing? What is my life supposed to mean in the end? I don't need to do that, because you get so stuck in that. You're so far in the future, you're not paying attention to the present moment in the now. And you may get stuck in the idea of something that doesn't suit you because you feel that you're supposed to be curing cancer, and that's not what you're meant to do. And so you get stuck in that, and you get stuck in a place that's not where you're supposed to be, and you're not in the moment of now. So also I say in the practicality is study on being purposeful, knowing the why, like you're saying, of what you're doing now, and that's most important. And when you can understand why you get up, and why you want to put on something nice today, why you don't want to put on something nice today, why you want to be in your pajamas all day, why you want to sleep in a little bit, why you don't want to do that task
All
that
right,
you're
close
supposed to
this
be doing.
out. Close. We got less than 1 minute.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. A thought-based, what we call it? I forgot. My brain's stuck.
Tackle topic Thursday.
Topic Thursday. And so we gotta go ahead and close this out. But please work on your why and work on your purpose. And I hope that you will join us next time for another tackle